Hello, everyone. Hello, and a warm welcome to the Cloud 8 Summit. We will wait a few minutes till 5 p.m. Perhaps someone will join the session here. The room is filling up. That's good to see. Hope you're all fine out there. And you already had a good day at the Cloud 8 Summit. So it's 5 p.m. and I will start my session. So yeah, hello and welcome to the Cloud 8 Summit. I think it's the third edition or the fourth, I'm not sure. My session today is about Azure Automation and Microsoft Graph, your dream team to find inactive and ownerless Microsoft teams. So it's some kind of Microsoft Teams lifecycle or the lifecycle methods and tools you have for your Microsoft Teams environment. But first of all, I would like to say thanks to our sponsors of this event. This is Script Runner, Change Cockpit, .cloud, and Veeam. So thanks to the sponsors. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to have such community events like the Cloud 8 Summit. So thanks a lot for the sponsoring. Then a short introduction to myself. My name is Thorsten Pickern. I'm working as a Microsoft GC consultant at Glucania in Germany. Glucania is a German Microsoft partner. We are focused on Microsoft cloud technologies. So we help our customers to have or to implement a modern workplace with Microsoft 365 tools, to use Azure and all the topics around these technologies. When we talk about my community activities, I have a format with my colleague Michael Plättner. The talk M365 it is a German format where we talk about the newest features announced by Microsoft in the M365 universe. I also host the Microsoft Teams user group in Germany, and also some German. For the German visitors here, I have the Office 365 quick tip video where I release on a weekly basis new end user videos. You can find me on different social media platforms. So if you like, just follow me, and then you are informed about my different community activities, like the session today. And then I would say let's start into the session. And first of all, what can you expect about the next 45 minutes? I would say, first of all, I would like to talk or speak about ownerless teams as a role of owner and why it's so important to monitor ownerless teams. The next topic is inactive teams, how to monitor them and how to manage and deal them. For both topics, I will show you some built-in solutions by Microsoft. And the last chapter of my speaker thought will be about build your own solution. So if the built-in solutions by Microsoft does not work for us, are there alternative ways to find ownerless teams or to find inactive teams? And I can say, yes, there are technologies, methods you can use, and you can manage them, deal with them. So let's start with the ownerless teams first. And here I would start with a short introduction why it is so important to have teams owners and what are the responsibilities and the roles of a team's owner. Why are the team's owners so important for us when we are talking about Microsoft Teams? First of all, only the owner can add new members to a team. This is one of the main roles and permissions a team owner has. Of course, it depends on your team's configuration, but in the default configuration, only the team's owner can add new members to a Microsoft Teams. Then only the team's owner can create connectors in Microsoft Teams. Here is a screenshot I show you here. It's based on Microsoft Teams 2.1 on the new Teams client. And it seems that Microsoft renamed connectors to workflows. What is the feature here? With connectors or workflows, you can subscribe, for example, to an RSS feed, like the update channel from Microsoft about Office 365 URLs and IP addresses. And if there's a change, this change will be posted as a Microsoft Teams message in a channel. And of course, there are different connectors from different vendors for different tools. And the basic idea is to pull information from a third-party site and to have some actions in Microsoft Teams, like posting posting in the channel, do a posting in the channel. And this can also be configured only by the Teams owner. Then also depending on the configuration of your team, but in the default configuration, only the Teams owners can create and add new teams. New channels in a team. It doesn't matter if it's a shared channel, a private channel, or a standard channel. In the default configuration, only owners can create them. Next, we are talking about tags. Also, for me, a hidden champion in the Microsoft Teams universe. Tags are some kind of distribution lists. You can configure and add tags to a team, and the team members can subscribe to a tag. And the tags itself, they can be used with the add mention in a conversation of a channel. And here you can, when you have dedicated information for a specific team, for example, or for a specific tag, I would say, then you can use the mention to mention the tag, and then all the subscribed users will be informed that there is a new activity, a new message about it. And new tags, depending on your configuration, but in the default configuration of a team, only the Teams owner create these tags, so users are able to subscribe to a tag. Then also very important is the topic with private channels and shared channels. I don't know if you have a look in the Teams client itself to a channel. When you create a shared channel or a private channel, it's some kind of subsite with own permissions, and only specific people or the members of the channel can open the channel, have access to this channel. And also here, very important that only the owner of a team can view shared channel or a private channel. The owner cannot access by default this channel. This is only possible for the member of the private channel or the shared channel, or to the Teams service administrator. So the owner itself cannot access the channel, but the owner can see these channels, and the owner is able to delete this channel. Very important to know is that an owner cannot add a member to a shared channel or private channel. So the owner is only able to see it and to delete it. And last but not least, the owner is able to delete the team. So only the owner and the team service administrator, of course, these are the both roles are able to delete a whole team. And if you delete the team, you all know that the data is lost or will go to the recycle bin, and after a period of time, the data is deleted permanently. And then you know that the owner itself of a team is an important role. And perhaps say, Thorsten, where's the problem? As we can see here in the screenshot, when I am owner of the team and I'm the only one, it's not possible to remove myself from the team because I am the last owner of the team, and we get an information or error message that I'm not able to leave the team, because then the team would be without owner, and without owner we have all these troubles I will show you later. So the question is, how does it work? How can we have an ownerless team? And of course, there are some ways to have an ownerless team. For example, we can delete the user in the entry ID. In that case, the user will, or the teams where the owner is, where the user is an owner, these teams becomes ownerless when we delete the owner, the user. The same, of course, if you have still an hybrid infrastructure with an Azure Active Directory and or Entra ID and an Active Directory on premises, your users are synced normally from on premises to the cloud. And also in that case, if you delete the user on premises, the deletion is synchronized to the Azure Active Directory or Entra ID, and then the user is also removed from the Entra ID. And if the user is owner in several teams, there's an option, the possibility that these teams are ownerless afterwards. And then we have all the explained problems, as I already explained at the beginning of the session. For example, only the owner can add new members. Here's a screenshot of a member. And when I select the option to add a new member to this team, I can request to add a member to the team, but there's no option to directly add a new member or a new user to the team. So as a normal member, I'm only able to request to add a new member, but I do not have the access right to add the new member directly. In case of request to add a new member, the owner will get this request, can check the request, and then confirm it, and then the new user will be added to the team. But for this, of course, as explained earlier, we need an owner of the team. So what is the Microsoft approach on this, and how we can deal with this? Microsoft has a built-in feature to find ownerless teams or MC65 groups. You can find it in your admin center when you go to the org settings, open the MC65 groups configuration, and there you have an option ownerless groups. By default, this option is disabled, and when you enable this feature, the Microsoft telemetry will detect ownerless teams or MC65 groups where an owner is missing. And then this is an important step. The top 5 or top 10 users of this group will be informed that the MC65 group or the team is without owner. And these users will be asked if they would like to be owner of the team. So your normal users or the normal members of a team and of an ownerless team will be informed by Microsoft and will be requested to upgrade to a Microsoft Teams owner. And here's the question, of course, if that is a good option, that a normal user or based on telemetry, the top 5, top 10 users will be informed and they can decide on their own to become owner of the team. Because there are a lot of permissions. You win with the role of owner, and in consequence, you have some responsibilities for the team, and perhaps it would be a good idea to train your users, to inform your users about this responsibilities when you are an owner, and it's not the best idea to grant every single person in a company to be an owner of a team. Also, it could be that there are some, I don't know, sensitive data, for example, in different channels, and in different channels. And here's the question also, if it's a good idea to just give the owner role to a user based on his or her activity. So we have an option, a built-in feature by Microsoft, but the question is if this feature meets our requirements from business side. So let's take a look on the topic about inactive teams. It's also an important one. As you already know, the Microsoft Teams is a self-service. Of course, we can configure it that it's not a self-service, but by default, each user in our tenant can create and request new teams. And as you can see here in the video, it's very easy and quick to create new teams, and therefore, it's very easy to create new teams. And on one side, it's good that we have this flexibility. On the other side, it could mess up our Teams infrastructure because users are creating teams. And then we have the problem that our teams or the numbers of teams are growing very fast. And here, as an administrator, of course, we need some overview based on activity, but this is not so easy because Microsoft doesn't give us an indicator so easily where are inactive teams, how is activity in the teams. You do not have any information here in the Teams Admin Center about this telemetry. And the problem here is that on one side, the number of teams are growing and growing, becomes more and more. If you are working on the PowerShell with the Microsoft Teams PowerShell module, you know that some commandlets need more time depending on the amount of teams. And when we are talking about big companies where we have several hundreds or several thousands of teams, it could take a while to complete a commandlet in the PowerShell module. And also in the Teams Admin Center, it's very difficult to have an overview about the different teams. So it's better to have a clean Microsoft Teams infrastructure instead of a mess up Teams infrastructure. The other topic about the amount of teams is that hopefully, in most cases, teams are created for reasons. For example, we have a project with the customer, we have an internal project, we would like to organize something, we have a new product challenge, a new product we would like to announce, something like that. Therefore, we have collaboration, and it's the best option, of course, to use Microsoft Teams and the M365 platform. So we start our project. We have some different documents, PowerPoint presentation, Excel files. We have conversations with our customers and internally. And at the end, we have business-related documents. And of course, the question is, when we have a team which is inactive because the project ends, for example, the question is what to do with all the data. Can we delete it? Are the data, is it required to archive them, to have them for some time stored in our teams? Is there a request to access the data in a few months or in a few years? And therefore, the question is, what should we do with the data we have stored in a team when a project comes to an end, or if the team is not required anymore? And why this question is so important? On one side is compliance. So what to do with the data if it's business critical. On the other hand, all the files which are stored in Teams are physically stored in SharePoint Online. And perhaps you know that the SharePoint Online storage is some kind of limited space. So when you subscribe for a Microsoft 365 license, Microsoft will give you 1 terabyte for SharePoint Online storage. And then for each user license you purchase at Microsoft, you will get additional 10 gigabyte. So for example, when you have 10 users, you get 1 terabyte of data for the initial or for the first license, plus 100 gigabyte for the 10 users you have. And then you can store in SharePoint Online files, all the data, till the limit is reached. And then, what to do then? Then you can buy additional SharePoint Online storage licenses. So the storage itself is not limited. It's more a question of money and how much you would like to pay to get unlimited storage. And when you have a lot of teams with a lot of data in it, and most of the teams are inactive, all the data you have in these teams counts again your SharePoint Online storage. And then it can become a problem because you need to buy some extra licenses to get more SharePoint Online storage. Luckily, Microsoft also provides here a solution for us. It's built in. You just need to enable it. And you need to have an additional license, the Azure Premium P1 license. And this is a Microsoft M365 group exploration policy. When you enable this policy, you have different modes. For example, you can configure the M365 group exploration policy that is triggered by activity. So Microsoft use their own telemetry and check if a team is active or inactive. And if the team becomes inactive, the owner of the team will be informed and will be asked if the team should be deleted. Also, you can define a fixed time range, a fixed period of time where the Microsoft platform or the Microsoft feature will ask the owner of a team if the team is still required or if the team can be deleted. And here's also the main problem. There's no option to archive the team. The only option Microsoft currently provides is to delete the team. So if the group exploration policy hits, then the team is deleted and the whole team will go to the recycle bin. Of course, the teams as service administrator can restore the team from the recycle bin, but this is also for a limited time. After this time, the data will go to the administrator recycle bin, and from there, after first, I think in some it's 60 days, then the data will be deleted permanently. So there's no option to archive the data, it's just to delete it. The other disadvantage of the M365 group exploration policy is that we can enable the policy for all our M365 groups, for selected M365 groups, or we can disable it disable it. So you only have the option to select if it should be enabled for all your M365 groups or for selected M365 groups. And there also, from my point of view, it's not the best option because it could be that, for specific teams like department teams, there shouldn't be an expiration policy enabled for it. But there's no option to do so because we can only enable for all groups, or we can select groups where we would like to enable it. And when you imagine that you have Microsoft Teams for your projects, and these teams are growing, you need to select all the M365 groups project related each week on again and again, because of course you have new projects each week or each month. And then you need to enable this group expiration policy for the newly teams. So Currently, there's missing an option to exclude specific groups from the expiration policy instead of selected for all or for selected groups. So this is the approach by Microsoft how to deal with inactive teams based on telemetry by Microsoft. And yeah, the question is, what if this is not our approach? So I explained you that there's a feature built in by Microsoft to find ownerless teams. There's also a built-in solution by Microsoft to find inactive teams. But the question is, what if both solutions doesn't fit to our requirements? Have we a solution for this? And luckily, we can build our own solution. Of course, you have third-party tools on the market, like the Teams Manager from Solution to Share, for example, or different other vendors provide third-party tools with this Teams lifecycle mechanism too. But perhaps you won't spend the money to the vendor. You would like to do your own solution, to find your own way, your own process, how to deal with inactive teams or ownerless teams. And what we can do here is to use the Microsoft GraphAPI and the M365 activity reports, or the M365 activity reports we get from the Microsoft GraphAPI. The M365 activity reports are based on telemetry by Microsoft, and you will get a report for all your teams, all your M365 groups in your tenant. And based on this information from the M365 activity report, we get also the information, or can filter the data and search for teams where an owner is currently missing. And we can also search for inactive teams. And combine this with the M365 platform, we can automate the whole process. For example, we can create an Azure Automation account where we store the PowerShell script to trigger the GraphAPI endpoint to get the M365 activity report, filter on ownerless teams, and then inform the IT, for example, that we have 10 teams without an owner and how to deal with it. And then the IT team can analyze it and can ask the users what is the best option with these ownerless teams, how to manage them. So let's go into detail. First of all, here the GraphAPI call itself. It's get/reports, get Office 365 groups activity detail, and then you define a period of time. And what happens in the background is that the Microsoft platform will create a CSV file for you, and based on your request, the activity for the last 7, 30, 90, or 180 days will be included in this CSV file. And you get a list of all M365 groups which are stored currently on your tenant, and you will get some detailed information about each group. These detailed informations are, for example, how many members are in these groups, how many guests you have in the group, what is the last activity, how many mail items are stored in the group, how many SharePoint files are stored in the group. I will show you later on. To trigger this GraphAPI endpoint, you need some specific permissions, of course, and these are the reports.read.all. When you have this GraphAPI permissions, or your application, your registered enterprise application has this permission, your application can trigger the endpoint from GraphAPI, and you will get the specific CSV file. In my example, I will use the CSV file and search and filter for ownerless teams or inactive teams. And at the end, when we found, or when my PowerShell script found or find a team where an owner is missing, it will store the information about the team in a SharePoint online list. And based on this, we can, for example, trigger a notification from SharePoint directly to the IT team that we found new teams without owner. And then the IT team is informed and they can decide how to deal with it. Of course, we can also use Power Automate, for example, to start some other actions and notifications. So this is, the advantage of the MC65 platform, that you have so many options to start any actions. And that's why I used or decided to use SharePoint here as data location. Of course, you can build your own solution and use a Dataverse or an SQL database or something else, whatever is the best solution for your environment. In my examples, I'm working with SharePoint Online list to store the teams without owner or inactive teams. When we take a look in the report created by the GraphAPI endpoint, you see that there are a lot of information included. I also have here the QR code for you. It will redirect you to the Microsoft GraphAPI endpoint description, where you can find all the detailed information, how to call the GraphAPI endpoint and which permissions are required. And as you can see, we will get a lot of information about the MC65 groups. For example, the last report refresh date, the group display name, if the group is already deleted or not, if we have an owner principal name, last activity date, group type, and all the stuff. What is important to know regarding the group display name and the owner principal name, these are sensitive data. It is, or let me say that Microsoft enabled a feature in September 2021 that the sensitive data, like the group display name and the owner principal name, are not stored in, or we cannot in reports. In reports, the information, the output of the information is not in clear text, so it's alphanumeric strings, and we do not get the clear name of the group display name, for example, or the owner principal name. We do not get the UPN in clear text. So it's alphanumeric strings, and therefore we don't have any access to the specific group display name or the owner principal name. Luckily, there's an option to disable it. And what we can also do when we script all the whole process, we can disable this information or disable this feature when the report is running, and re-enable this feature again when we have all the required information. It is this feature was, as I already explained, the feature was implemented in 2021, and it's regarding the GDPR, and that we handle safely personal information. So if you would like to have this information and in your client, the feature is enabled to hide this sensitive data, you need to disable this feature or use a script to disable and re-enable after you run the script. And what is important for us, if you would like to filter for ownerless teams, of course, it is the ownerless principal name. This is the column where we have the information if an owner principal name is set or not. What is here important, in my example, if we have a user, an owner who was deleted, the team is ownerless. from Entra ID perspective, the user is deleted and goes into the recycle bin from Entra ID. And here the user object will stay for, I think, 60 days it was. It's also a configuration item in your tenant, but I think it's 60 days. And for these 60 days before the user object is deleted permanently, the column owner principal name is filled up with the deleted owner principal name. So when you delete a user and the user was owner of a team, the column, and it was the only owner in a team, the column owner principal name for this team will have the information till the user is deleted from the recycle bin. This is very important. But at the end, even it takes 60 days till after we deleted the user, it takes 60 days till we have the information in the report. It's better to have the information after 60 days than we do not have the information that there are teams without owners. So it's not to worry that we have to wait 60 days until the user object is deleted from the Entra ID recycle bin, I think. So to get the list of ownerless teams, we use the generated data and will filter on owner principal name, and all the MC65 where this column is empty, we know that it is an ownerless team. Next, let's filter for inactive teams. There we also have an indicator. It's the column last activity date. Here the Microsoft telemetry detects the last activity in a team. For example, if you upload a SharePoint file to the, or if you upload a file to your team and it is stored in the SharePoint online folder, this is an activity. If you chat with your colleagues in the team, this is an activity. So the last activity date itself is based on the Microsoft telemetry. And we can use this date to calculate if there was any activity over the last 30, 60, or whatever days. So let's take a look in the process itself to detect ownerless teams. In the first step, we trigger or call the GraphAPI endpoint from Microsoft, and we will get the CSV file with all the detailed information. If we have enabled that the personal data should be hidden from in the reports, we also need to disable this feature before we create the report and call the GraphAPI endpoint, and then we have to re-enable it afterwards. Then in step 2, we will import the CSV file in PowerShell and filter on teams where the column owner is empty. And if this is the case, we will add these records to a SharePoint Online list. And in step 3, we can use the basic notification feature in SharePoint Online in case of a new entry that, for example, the IT team is informed via email that our script detected a new team without an owner. I have written a blog post to this topic. It's named How to Find Ownerless Teams Part 2, because I have also another blog post about it. You can find here the QR code, and you redirect directly to my blog. And in the blog post itself, the process, or I wrote the blog post about the process itself, and I also have included a link to my GitHub repository where you can find the script itself and also a script to prepare your Azure Automation account, which modules you need, which permissions you need, and all the stuff. It is all described here in the blog post from my blog. Here we have the process to find inactive teams. It's more or less the same like the ownerless. process. So we start with the GraphAPI endpoint. We will get the CSV file from Microsoft. We import the CSV file, and based on the last activity date, we will filter on inactive teams. If we have a hit and have found an inactive team based on the last activity, we add this record to the SharePoint Online list. And in my example, I use the Power Automate approval process to inform the owner of the team that we found his team to be inactive and if we should archive the team. And this is the most different to the Microsoft built-in solution. I will not delete the team. I will ask the owner of the team if we should archive the team, and the owner of the team can approve it. And if the user or the owner approve it, we have a second Azure Automation script which will be triggered, and then then the team will be archived. Here's the script itself, or the information how to detect if the team is active or inactive. We use the last activity day, and then we can calculate if we have activity over the last 30 days, and if so, the team should be archived, and then it is stored to the SharePoint Online list. Here's also the example of the Power Automate approval process. We start with when the item is stored to the SharePoint Online list. This is the trigger for the Power Automate flow itself. Then the Power Automate get all the information for the specific team. For example, the group display name, the owner of the team, and then we start a parallel job. Let's first of all start with the left section. Here we send an approval email to the owner of the team, and waiting for a response by one of the owners. And the email itself includes the question if the team should be archived or not. And when we have one of the owners response, the flow will terminate and will end. On the right side, you have some kind of escalation. So that means that first of all, we start a delay of, for example, 1 day or 2 days. And if the flow itself is still running because we are waiting for the approval on the left side, we will send an email after 2 days to the team's owner, a friendly reminder that there is an approval open and that we wait for a response from the approval. If the owner of the team approves and confirms that the team can be deleted, we also have an endpoint, GraphAPI endpoint to archive a team. So if the owner of the team agree that the team can be archived, we will use the GraphAPI endpoint to do this. And the advantage of archiving a team is that first of all, the team itself stays on the tenant itself, but it becomes read-only. So members have still access to the team, but can only read the information of the team. So the file tab, for example, is still there, will also include all the files and folder structures, but only in read-only mode. And the other advantage is that when we detect or would like to continue the project, for example, after it was archived, the owner of the team can go into the Teams client itself, restore the team directly. There's no need to interact with the Teams service administrator. So the owner itself can re-enable the team, restore the team, as Microsoft named it, and then the team becomes read-writable again in a few seconds, and the team can start directly to continue in their work with the given information of the team, with all the postings, informations, files, any apps you've included. You can start directly to work with it. Very new is the information. Microsoft announced in October last year. This is the information that in the future, Microsoft told us that it should be rolled out next month in February, that we then have the option to archive single teams channels. Very interesting, and currently there aren't further information how it looks like, and if we have I expect that this is an option in the Teams client too, but currently there are not really further information how it will look like and how the UI will change to reflect an archive team and what happens to an archive team. So stay tuned, watch out for the Microsoft Teams roadmap item. It is planned that in the future you can archive a single Teams channel. Also very often requested by customers. Here also, I wrote a blog post about this option, how to find inactive Microsoft Teams and how to archive them. You can find it on my M365 or Office 365 blog. Here's the QR code. Also, you will find a link to my GitHub repository with all the scripts. A script to find inactive teams, a script to build the needed SharePoint online list, and a script to archive the team if requested by the owner. So at the end of my session, a short summary, some takeaways for you. For the situation that we have ownerless teams or inactive teams, Microsoft offers built-in features. Depending on your needs, perhaps it's not a 100% solution. For example, an option to archive teams is currently missing. Also, the ownerless team option or built-in feature, I'm not sure if it's the best way to ask my top users of a team if they would like to be or to become an owner. So perhaps it's not the 100% solution. For some built-in features, like the group policy expiration, you need additional licenses like the Azure Premium P1 license. And to have some lifecycle management, from my point of view, it's a must to have a team's lifecycle management, to have governance here, to find ownerless or inactive teams. And if the Microsoft built-in features does not meet the business requirements for 100%, you have the option to use Microsoft Graph to build your own solution. And yeah, I'm not sure if you have any questions. I will take a look into the chat. Hello, René. Very interesting, but I have to close the session. Thanks a lot and best regards. Yeah, no problem. So as I know, Drago has recorded all the sessions here, and you will find it later on the Cloud 8 YouTube channel. Also, as mentioned in my speaker slides, you will find blog posts about both topics. So how to find ownerless teams and how to find inactive teams. Of course, it is just an example from my side. If you would like to delete your teams, or if you would like to do some integration in your existing ticketing system or something like that, it's the M365 platform, so there are not really some limitations, I would say. there are good implementations and integrations into different platforms. Just use the GraphAPI endpoint, and yeah, it's just from my side, it's just an idea how to deal with it. As I said in some slides already, if you don't think it's a good idea to use SharePoint online lists to store the information about ownerless teams or inactive teams, you are independent, so you can also use SQL database or something else to store the information. So it depends on your needs, and yeah, feel free to build your own code based on GraphAPI. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining today. Thanks for joining the Cloud 8 Summit. As I said, you will find the recordings in a few weeks on the YouTube channel of Cloud 8. And then thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks to you. And yeah, have a good week and have a good Friday. Thanks for coming.